This week's channeled message from the angels goes into more detail and gives us a deeper understanding of the separation of our world into two states of consciousness, the state that we are currently at and this new higher state that we are evolving into, and how this separation is already beginning. So has already begun. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you are here. I love the message and I'm super excited to share it with you. So welcome back. And for those of you who are new, my name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by raising my awareness up as high as I can go, and then I stretch a little higher. I connect at the angelic realm, and then messages, information, and healing come through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So, and today's message, I called it the division into two worlds, because they are talking about, and I love how the angels are so loving and so caring about us, and they tell it about it, they talk about it from their perspective about what it is, what it's like for them to communicate with us now, and then what it will be like to communicate with us after the shift in consciousness. And they describe what our experience will be as we open up to this greater state of oneness, and then how that opening, it creates this kind of a bifurcation between people who are open and receptive to the energies, and then those that are resisting the energies. So it is, I think, a really helpful understanding for us to be able to navigate the process ourselves, but also to help us be compassionate towards those that might be fearful, because it really is about how open are we to experiencing love. And it takes, as you guys know, it takes a lot of work on our journey to get to the place where we feel worthy of love, where we open our hearts to love. So I think it's going to take a lot of compassion from us, for ourselves, and then also for the people we know who maybe have not yet begun that journey. So I'm excited to share the message with you guys. So my format is, that's kind of an overview of what it's about. I will share the original channeling, which I did a couple days ago. As I'm in a hotel room, you'll see I've been in Phoenix last couple of days. I was there we did a beautiful one-day event with people in Phoenix, and had just a phenomenal time. But anyway, so I recorded there because I was flying on Thursday. And then, so I'll share the original channeling. And then I also have a transcript, which I then use to break it down with you afterwards. So, and we will talk through, and we always get a lot more understanding, because there's the angels are nuanced in their use of vocabulary. They frequently choose words that mean more than one thing. And so we get a lot more when we go deeper. So a quick reminder for those of you who are in peace bathing is Sunday. So if you are part of our peace bathing community, don't forget, I'm really excited to seeing you Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And if you would like to join us, if you do not yet have a regular healing practice of your own, you are absolutely welcome to join us. Peace bathing is an incredible, beautiful gift from the angels, where they meet with us once a month and they give us a healing meditation. They heal us in the session, and then we use that meditation all month long to help us through the energies that are coming. And every month we get a new one. It's an incredible community that comes together for this process. So if you would like to join us, you're absolutely invited. And I will put in the link, put it here, and then I'll put it in the description box. All right, you guys, I hope you love the message.
Beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are speaking within a framework of our own understanding. We communicate to you within the scheduled arrivals of each packet of pronounced information. And within these boundaries, we lay down what is shareable, what can be grasped and contained within this sentenced structure. There is not room for feeling for all that we contain. There is not room for the fullness of our own understanding. We cannot convey through these mores of your own acculturalization what we would inform you about. We would give you the understanding of our loyalty, of our devotedness, of the fullness within which we are dedicated to your arrival, we would communicate to you all that is our truth in our surroundings, in how we exist, in what we are formed by in our own experiences, how we have been made, and what is made through us. We would give this to you freely. We would share with you our own arrivals and departures from each experience we have been having. We would give to you the fullness of our embrace of each other. And in the announcement of these things, you would have us within your own experience. You would embody with us as though we are not separated, as though we are one, as though we are not scheduled in the arrival into your understanding in small packets of communication, which is how we are limited. We say that in the arrival of your understanding, a new dawn is coming. A new spaciousness will overtake where you are, and the horizons shall not be limited in the same way. The fullness of your understanding shall broaden and lengthen beyond this short beginning time frame of the now moment, and you shall extend in all directions at once, and you shall embrace more of what we are. And in this new time coming, the separation between us shall feel much smaller, less significant, as though what we are and what you are has always been intertwined, which it has been. You shall come to the understanding of us as someone trusted, as someone relied upon, as someone integral to your own experiencing of the realities that you are creating. And you shall come to trust us more than is natural for you today. There shall not be the fullness of exchange which you will be experiencing upon your passage from this realm. You cannot now or then feel the fullness of what we are. The boundaried experience of being on earth creates a hesitation in your own architecture. It creates a pause and a withdrawal of the self from the fullness of our interaction. There is a boundaried layer of your own psyche that creates the institution of the veil. And through this, we cannot pass without the orchestration of some miraculous undertaking. There shall be in times to come a greater experiencing of the world where you are. The fullness of the vibrations of everything shall seep into your pores. And you are beginning to feel this even now as the fullness of what is your reality begins to separate into two halves of prosperity and division. You shall see within your own hearts the lengthening of the days as you feel yourselves moving in directions that are opposed to one another. And there shall not be the same level of interaction between where you are going and where you have been. As you are stepping into greater and greater depths of your own fortitude as a soul, as the strengthening center of yourself is broadened in the process of accepting what is the dialogue between your soul and that higher aspect of divinity which you contain, you will feel the receptiveness of this earth to what you are, and the vibrations that surround you become more palpable and palpably felt. You shall feel yourself surrounded by new feelings and informations which were before to your thought non-existent, as if they sprang from nowhere, but have always been surrounding you. There cannot be the same insulative defense that you have always contained against what is the now. There has been a propensity within the human mind towards separation, which has been difficult and instructive. But in the new tomorrow, this tendency to remove yourselves must be set down as you prepare to receive more of what is. The aliveness of things stirs your senses, and your receptivity to this creates health and well-being. In the event of one who does not allow the perception to receive what is, there can be sensations of overwhelm and exhaustion as the defenses maintain a position of removal against what feels to be an onslaught of incoming, loving excitement from the world around you. In the flow of this receptivity, what shall surround you now becomes a friendly place, becomes a welcoming environment. In an environment of rejection, it becomes an onslaught of overwhelm. And we speak to this now in the dialogue within which we also are contained in the environment of your future. We are part of what shall seem insolvably enormous, exponentially larger than what you have previously felt. The fullness of our energies may seem like an intrusion upon the peaceful separation within which you have existed. But within those very frequencies, you will find the love that you are seeking. You will find the peace that separates you from overwhelm, that creates within the chaotic voices of the all that is a rhythm and a harmony within which your own voice will sing. You are part of this chaotic slumbering that is coming to rise into your perception. You belong within it. You shall always be heard within the many voices of the all that is that gathers around you to begin this new voyage, we included. There cannot be the same separation when the voyage begins, for it will exhaust the self to pull away from what wishes so earnestly to be in dialogue with yourself, and the division of worlds will begin to happen. There cannot be at once two ways of being human. It cannot endure in this manner. For the world, once it has its taste of expression, cannot repress itself again. And these great songs and great heights and great feats of expression shall begin to become fuller, longer, more potent, and your own hearing of them will feel like a blessing. You will know yourself more completely. You will know us more earnestly and more truthfully. And you will know this world as one that exists because you are in it.
So amazing message, I think, absolutely amazing. And I love how they use this message. They start with their relationship with us and they make this a very personal sharing. This is a very, very personal message, I feel. And they are sharing with us, you can imagine how they feel about trying to have a relationship with us, and they're trying to communicate with us through this incredibly narrow bandwidth, right? Which is what our limitation, which is our language. And like to think about how true that is, that in human consciousness, if we don't have a word for something, then we don't understand it or we don't perceive it. So, for example, I remember reading about this one anthropologist who went to stay with a community of people that had their own language, and they did not have any word for wait or for time. It was like time or waiting or something like that. They didn't have a phrase for it. And so because of that, there was no Like they never talked about time. They never talked. There was no impatience. So, for example, what the guy gave the example is that he was talking with one person, and there was another person that was wanting to talk with him, and the person just stood there, and I mean, it was like an hour. Like there was no sense of like impatience. There was no sense of wait. The concept of waiting. It was just being. Right? There was no sense of like my life is on hold because you're not attending to me now. It was like, no, I'm just being and you are being, and then next you will be with me. So it was this idea that without the word existing, the concept didn't occur that he should be impatient. And it's the same thing I've heard about like the Inuit people. I heard, and I could be getting the who actually had this incorrectly, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but that there are people who live, I think it's the Inuits who live where they have like 30 different words for snow. And that when we look at snow, we see it's snow. And maybe we like separate that out and say, like, oh, that's hail and that's snow. And maybe we'll say like flurries might be another word we would use. So we maybe have like three words, right? Like hail, snow, and flurries would be like the three I can think of. But they see snow so much that they have distinguished the snow into 30 different things. And we would never see all those distinctions because we have no word for it. So this is the degree to which language defines our consciousness. If we don't have a word for something, we literally don't see it. And so as the angels are trying to communicate with us, and they are trying to work within our limited, and even worse, it's my limited vocabulary, because they have to work, when they're channeling through me, they work through the library of my mind. So if I've ever heard a word, they can pull it up. I don't have to remember the word. A lot of times I end up using the dictionary, as you guys know, to look up words that they use. But somewhere and my mom was an English teacher, so I heard a lot of words, a lot of words. And they will pull on any of those and use them, but they will be words out of my experience, which is finite, it's limited. And so it's not even like they can pull on all the words of all the languages of humanity. It's only what I've got in my brain. So in that little tiny box, they're trying to spell out these infinite concepts, and we just don't have words for it. So they're saying in the beginning of this message, it's like, we love you so much, and you can never understand it because you have no words for it, is what they're saying, which is just incredible, right? And so let's break it down. So, okay, so first paragraph, they say, we are speaking within a framework of our own understanding. So here they start out by saying they are talking to us from their area of knowledge, from the fullness of who they are, right? From their a framework of understanding, which is really different from our framework of understanding. Then they say, we communicate to you within the scheduled arrivals of each packet of pronounced information. So that they're referring to channeling. That when I channel, information comes through in like packets or batches of information. And so the scheduled arrivals, it's like, okay, here we have Friday Live. It's scheduled. It's every week. And they'll send us these packets. So this message is a packet that they prepare and send through me, the channel. I'm like the post office. But they send it from where they are, way up there in that higher frequency, where they have levels of emotion and feeling and understanding that cannot necessarily fit into the package. So then they go on to say, and within these boundaries, we lay down what is shareable, what can be grasped and contained within this sentenced structure. What a cool way to say that. So in other words, we have a lot of boundaries in our consciousness, right? We cannot grasp a lot of what an angel is or how they feel or what they are, because we just don't have words to understand it. And they say they bring down what is shareable. So what can we receive? They share that. And they say what can be grasped and contained within, and they don't say, it's a play here, because angels are very playful. And there is such a thing as sentence structure. They have to fit their words into a sentence structure, but they call it a sentenced structure. And to be sentenced is declared punishment. So they're joking around here, but they're saying, yeah, this stinks. Like, we would love to be able to tell you everything we feel about you. We would love for you to really understand how much we care. But they are sentenced to be stuck within the boundaries of our consciousness. So they're playing with us a little bit here. And it's a sentence structure, and it is the sentenced structure, which I think is just so cute. All right, they go on to say, there is not room for feeling for all that we contain. There is not room for the fullness of our own understanding. We cannot convey through these mores of your own culturalization what we would inform you about. So, mores, it's Mores. Mores means customs and conventions or habits and manners. So I think that is a really interesting choice of words, because I think what they're showing us here is that it isn't that we aren't capable, it's that we don't yet know how, that we don't have customs or expectations or habits of expanding our consciousness to be able to feel their love, which I think is super important, because it tells us that that as we, the way I see, oh, that's my phone in the way, sorry, because I'm broadcasting this in two places at once. But it tells us that as we grow, it's possible. So it's not saying that it is fundamental to who we are as existing beings. They're saying that we have hope. In other words, that mores, habits, manners, all changeable, right? So that's pretty cool, that we can evolve to feel more of how they feel about us. So that's really, really cool. All right. Next paragraph, they say, we would give you the understanding of our loyalty, of our devotedness, of the fullness within which we are dedicated to your arrival. We would communicate to you all that is our truth in our surroundings and how we exist and what we are formed by in our own experiences, how we've been made and what is made through us. So they're really trying to describe, like, if they could really share everything with us. They're trying to list here, like, what is it to really fully understand another person? And I like thinking about this list as we think about what is it going to be like when we develop emotional telepathy, which they've said we will have when we go into the higher state of consciousness. They said we will have emotional telepathy. So what will it be like? How will we experience the other person? And really be able to feel who they are. And so here it is, they're saying that we would have an understanding of that, and that what they really want to convey to us, part of it is because they really want us to trust them, their loyalty, their devotedness, the fullness of their dedication to us, right? They communicate to us all that is their truth. So in this, they say our surroundings, how we exist, what forms us, our experiences, how we've been made, and what is made through us. So what creates us and what we create. It's kind of like every side of the prism is what they're trying to describe here. And then they say, we would give this to you freely. We would share with you our own arrivals and departures from each experience we have been having. So that's like the equivalent of us saying we would share all of our past lives. Like every time we arrive and depart, every new beginning, every ending, we would share all of that with each other. And they're saying they would like to share that with us. That's my thought, anyways, of what the new reality will be, that we would be able to feel that in each other. They say we would give to you the fullness of our embrace of each other. So that's beautiful, that how we would feel their love for each other. And in the announcement of these things, you would have us within your own experience. You would embody with us as though we are not separated, as though we are one. And as though we are not scheduled in the arrival into your understanding in small packets of communication, which is how we are limited. So yeah, so beautiful description, I think, of what it might be like to truly be in oneness with each other, or in this case, as they're describing it, with the angels. Very, very cool. They go on to say, we say that in the arrival of your understanding, a new dawn is coming. So a new beginning in terms of what's possible for us, as in terms of what we understand. A new spaciousness will overtake where you are, and the horizons shall not be limited in the same way. The fullness of your understanding shall broaden and lengthen beyond this short beginning time frame of the now moment, and you shall extend in all directions at once, and you shall embrace more of what we are. So this was interesting to me, because we are always being told that the only thing that is real is the now moment, and that we're meant to focus on the now and live in the now. And in being in the now, we become increasingly present. And what this makes me think is that is not the end, that focusing on the now is a means to an end. That when we focus on the now, it may open a doorway to the infinite. So that is how I'm understanding this, that by focusing on the now, they're saying here that we shall extend in all directions at once, and you shall embrace more of what we are. So it's almost like, imagine that the now moment it opened you up to all of universal consciousness, right? So that's, I think, what they're talking about here. So we, in our current frame of mind, we focus on the now moment, and we think about, like, it's just about trying to be present and focus on the tangible stuff of our daily life. But they're seeing it as this gateway into universal thought. So cool. All right, next paragraph. They say, and in this new time coming, the separation between us shall feel much smaller, less significant, as though what we are and what you are has always been intertwined, which it has been. You shall come to the understanding of us as someone trusted, as someone relied upon, as someone integral to your own experiencing of the realities that you are creating. And you shall come to trust us more that is natural for you today. So this, I think, references the message from last week, where they were talking about how, was it the message from last week? Where they were talking about how they are co-creators with us, how they are deeply involved in the process of creation. And they even, this came up in the channeled message that I just channeled for our group when I was just live in Phoenix on Wednesday. I remember that's because we talked about this afterwards. The angels said that they create original thought. Like, they are the ones that give us our brilliant ideas. Like, where do they come from? They come from angels. And so we were sharing stories about like how I shared the story that I heard that Michael Jackson woke up at 3 a.m. and called his agent and said, we have to write a song about butterflies or Prince is going to write one. Like, there was a song in the ether that maybe the angels had come up with, and like, here's a great song, let's share it, let's see who will take it. We're going to float the idea in the ether and see which connected and brilliant artist picks it up. And maybe it'll be Prince, maybe it'll be Michael Jackson, right? Whoever grabs it first gets the idea. And it's true that, like, when we have amazing leaps in science, frequently there will be multiple people working on the same idea at the same time, and they're all fighting for who gets to release it first, right? Because it's the idea has been in the ether. So the angels, they told us, yeah, they give us ideas. They give us, and then we manifest them into reality because we are the creators. And it's not that we can't have our own ideas, but those inspired aha moments, right? That they are gifts from the angelic realm, which is so cool. So they're co-creating with us in really amazing ways. And that was just one of the ways that they do. But they're saying that we have been really intertwined with them from the get-go, that humans and angels have always been having this experience together. And that we will learn as we go through this process of opening our consciousness, as we learn to see them and to feel them and feel this oneness with them, that we will develop more and more trust, which I think will make us even better co-creators. So yeah, super, because it's true. Like imagine if we had that faith that they were there, how much more we would lean into our inspiration. So yeah, really amazing to think about. So, okay. All right, next paragraph. They say, there shall not be the fullness of exchange which you will be experiencing upon your passage from this realm. So in other words, when we go through the shift in consciousness, we won't have quite the same depth of understanding of them as we will when we are in spirit, when we leave our bodies. So they say, you cannot now or then feel the fullness of what we are. And by that, they mean now as in where we are presently, and then meaning after the shift in consciousness. So neither now or after the shift, it won't be quite as complete as when we are out of the physical body. They say, you cannot now or then feel the fullness of what we are. The boundaried experience of being on earth creates a hesitation in your own architecture that creates a pause and a withdrawal of the self from the fullness of our interaction. So interesting, right? Really interesting that it is. And then they say that there is a boundaried layer of your own psyche that creates the institution of the veil. And through this, we cannot pass without the orchestration of some miraculous undertaking. So in other words, it's definitely not a common thing for them to come through the veil where we can see them. But and I think it's just interesting how they're describing, like, what is it that causes that where we're not able to see them? It is part of like how we're structured. And some of that is going to be the mores they talked about, our language, the way that our brains work, our frequency, right? But they describe it as a pause and a withdrawal of the self. And I think that is probably Like what I say that, what I feel is like separation from self-love, right? Where we are self-critical and where we are removed from our own selves. And I think that that withdrawal from ourself creates withdrawal from all that is, which would be withdrawal from the angels. So probably in the moment of stepping behind the veil, when we forget who we truly are and we separate from ourself, I think that is probably what they're talking about. So psyche, that was an interesting word. There is a boundaried layer of your own psyche that creates the institution of the veil. So I had to look up psyche because we hear that term, but I wanted to get like really clear on it. So psyche is named after, it was like I think a Freudian term, psyche, and I didn't write that part down. I think it was Freud that came up with psyche. But anyways, it was named after a Greek princess whose story is about redeeming yourself through love. So Psyche was a princess who was in love with Cupid. I think it was Cupid. And but then she had to go through a whole bunch of trials, like really difficult circumstances, until she finally got to marry him. And so the story is one about redemption, redeeming yourself through love. So, what I also love is that the word psyche in Greek means butterfly, so which is about transformation, right? And so it is also defined by, I think it was Freud, as soul and personality. And it's supposed to be all inclusive of the conscious and unconscious self. The psyche is kind of like the whole bucket of everything that you are, right? It's the conscious, it's the unconscious, the id, the ego, all of that, superego, whatever, all of that, all inclusive. So, but think about that. All of those different definitions in the framework of this message is they're saying there is a boundary layer of your own psyche that creates the institution of the veil. So they're talking about what is the purpose of the veil? Like why? How does it serve us? Well, it's the butterfly piece of that, and the fact that it is redemption through love. That the veil puts us in a position where we are meant to transform, right? Where we go into it asleep so that we encounter ourselves in the world, and we have to find our way back to self-love, right? Through experiencing ourselves in these difficult scenarios that we then project out of our bodies into our reality. So it's the butterfly, it's the transformation, it's the redemption of ourself through and the return to self-love. Right? Very, very cool choice of words with many meanings that all fit. Yeah. And it's also referring to, the structure of our, as Freud or whoever it was would say it, psyche. Yeah. All right. They go on to say, there shall be in times to come a greater experiencing of the world where you are. The fullness of the vibrations of everything shall seep into your pores, and you are beginning to feel this even now as the fullness of what is your reality begins to separate into two halves of prosperity and division. Okay, so very interesting little turn they're taking here in this message here. Like my ears perk up. What? Right? Very interesting. So, okay, so here in the beginning, they say the fullness of the vibrations of everything. And then later, I wanted to get back to that. So I'll get back to that piece of it. But think about, so the fullness of vibrations of everything. When you perceive things more fully, it slows time down. And I know this because the one time I had a near-death experience where I had tons of adrenaline. I was at the bottom of a river, nearly drowned, had a ton of adrenaline in my system. And what I experienced was that time slowed. And there is actually a scientific reason for that, is that when you have enormous amounts of adrenaline like that, what happens is that your brain begins to process information differently. Is that if you think about your sight as like a film strip that's kind of going through, like you're seeing a movie, which is the movie of your life. In normal circumstances, you might say, let's say 10 frames per second, and that's the amount of detail that you can get. But when you are in a near-death situation, that might triple, where all of a sudden you are getting 30 frames per second. So what happens is, because you're getting so much, like, think of all the space. If you're only getting 10 frames per second, there's loads of information between each of those pictures. in the movie strip that you're missing. You're getting, you're kind of getting like, it's like a skip, like the old flip books where you flip it and you see the little character kind of jumping kind of randomly, right? Like, slowly. But if you fill it in and you're getting 30, you're getting all the little gaps in information. So you get way more information with the idea that maybe you can find a way out of the jam. Maybe you can save yourself, that kind of thing. That's why the body does it. But what it also does is, because you're perceiving so much more, the conscious experience is that time is slowing down. And I will vouch that is exactly what it felt like for me. It felt like time slowed. It was amazing. I was like there on the bottom of the river going like, wow, like looking around and what can I do and how can I get out of this jam? And like, it's amazing. So when and they've said many times we're going to be freed from time, that's a whole nother conversation. When we go through the ship, we'll be freed from time. But this part here about the fullness of the vibrations of everything shall seep into your pores. So they go on to say, and you are beginning to feel this even now, as the fullness of what is your reality begins to separate into two halves of prosperity and division. And we will come back to that for sure. You shall see within your own hearts the lengthening of the days as you feel yourselves moving in directions that are opposed to one another. So the lengthening of the days. So that is a reference to the idea that we will be perceiving more in our reality, that we will be getting more information from our reality. It will stretch. Like, it's like that same thing as like what happens with the adrenaline and you get 30 frames per second. We'll be getting all that extra data, but it will come because we are becoming one with everything, and we will be feeling the aliveness of everything around us. So the time will pass. It will seem like each day has a lot more in it. Isn't that amazing? Like, an amazing thought. Yeah. So let's not skip over this very important little bit here, where they say two halves of, that as we begin to see our reality begins to separate into two halves of prosperity and division. So this is the first time in the message where they start talking about the separation of our world. And we've been talking about this for a while. This idea, they've told us before that there will be that idea that it's literally like a separation of two conscious states. And they've shown it to me almost like a cell in mitosis separating. And they say two halves of prosperity and division. So two halves, like if you imagine one cell splitting apart, you get two halves, but within each half is a whole, right? You don't separate apart and then you only get half of like, in other words, if you have 100 peanuts and you split them in half and each person only gets 50, that's not what happens in cell mitosis. You split 100 peanuts, and then, I don't know why I chose peanuts, but probably because I flew yesterday, that you get 100 in each. 100 becomes 100 and 100, right? That's how cell mitosis begins, is that they separate and then they kind of fill themselves back in, and you end up with a full set in each. So that full set is two halves of prosperity and division. So what makes the fullness of a human experience? It is the division, but also prosperity, right? It is separation and prosperity, both. It is that dynamic. It's the polarity. We will still always have polarity because it's only through polarity that we create. We're going to experience it very differently. It won't be polarity in the same way. We'll begin to experience polarity from the perspective of manifestation, which is going to be awesome, as opposed to polarity from the perspective of separated from ourselves and each other. So, but we will have two halves of prosperity and division, two equal halves, in other words, which is, I think, super, super cool. Yeah. So, okay, so let's keep going here. Where was that? Yeah, very, very interesting thought. So I just put this on my note. Cell mitosis was my note on that one. All right, so next paragraph, they say, and there shall not be the same level of interaction between where you are going and where you have been. As you are stepping into the greater and greater depths of your own fortitude as a soul, as the strengthening center of yourself is broadened in the process of accepting what is the dialogue between your soul and that higher aspect of divinity which you contain, you feel the receptiveness of this earth to what you are. So that's a mouthful. So let's just break that down a little bit. So they will have in other words, we're going to have a lot more interaction. And that's what the oneness is in the new reality. We're going to have, when they say between where we are and where we are going. So between now and then the new state of awareness, or new state of consciousness, we will have much more interaction between us and our surroundings and each other. And they were said we're stepping into greater and greater depths of our own fortitude as a soul. Fortitude is courage in pain or adversity. So to me, I see that, and they say fortitude as a soul, as a strengthening center of yourself, is broadened in the process of accepting what is the dialogue between your soul and then your higher self. So accepting is about that self-acceptance, which is healing. So this sentence to me, I read it. So if I just put it in a summary, what I'm hearing in this sentence is that healing takes courage. Healing is the acceptance of everything that is us. It is the acceptance of every bad experience we've ever had, of every mean thing that's ever come out of our mouths. It's the acceptance of every experience, word, phrase, anything that we have ever had in this life or any life that we wish we didn't have, that we try to push away because we kind of want to deny it. We don't want that to be part of us. And acceptance is healing, is the integration and acceptance of all those things. It's forgiving ourselves for having the things that we wish we didn't have and the being the things we wish we hadn't been. So that is healing. And so that is accepting when they talk about accepting. And what does it take to do that? It takes incredible fortitude. It takes incredible courage. I look at all the people who are going through soul convergence, and that is a process that takes incredible fortitude because it's dedication. Soul convergence, you are working every day, and you're working to delve into the very things that we are trying to run away from, and you're bringing up to the surface, and you're letting yourself feel them, and it brings you enormous peace. It brings you the kind of peace that you really can't get any other way but by going through it. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. And the process, it gives you a process to do that, but it takes courage, right? To say, okay, I'm going to feel this thing that I really don't want to feel. I'm going to feel it right now. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be with myself, and I'm going to feel it as hard as I can feel it. So that is the fortitude. So, and they're saying, they're telling us as we heal, as we move into self-acceptance, as we heal ourselves and we move into greater unity with our higher self. This is part of what is getting us closer and closer to feeling the oneness with all things. And so that makes perfect sense because everything in our universe is fractal. What's true in the small is true in the big, right? That the spiral of a seashell matches the spiral of the universe, which means that whatever is true on the inside of us is true on the outside of us. So if we want to achieve oneness on the outside, we have to achieve oneness on the inside, which is healing, which means integrating all these parts of ourself. And what does it take? Fortitude. It takes courage. Yeah. So it sounds like a complicated sentence because it says a lot. But they say, I'll repeat it again, they say, as you are stepping into greater and greater depths of your own fortitude as a soul, as the strengthening center of yourself is broadened, so this is that like you reaching up and attaching to your higher self, connecting to your higher self in the process of accepting what is, so the accepting yourself, healing, in the dialogue between your soul and your higher aspect of divinity, right? You will feel the receptiveness of this earth to what you are. So they're saying it, that as we do the healing, as we accept ourselves, we feel the earth accepting us. So we find the oneness through healing. And these vibrations that surround you become more palpable and palpably felt. So that's how we can do it now, right? Work on our healing, work on our self-love, work on our self-acceptance, move into the oneness, and then we will become more and more attuned to the vibrations of everything. Yeah, very, very cool. All right, they go on to say, you shall feel yourself surrounded by new feelings and information which were before to your thought non-existent, as if they sprang from nowhere, but have always been surrounding you. So it's literally like we will come into this experience, and I believe this will be what it'll be like when the flash of light comes. It'll be like we go through it, and then we come out, and we'll realize that, that this desk I'm sitting at is vibrating with consciousness, right? That it has awareness, and that everything around me has awareness, and it'll be like it came out of nowhere. It's always been there. I just was deaf to it. I couldn't hear it. Yeah, which is amazing. They go on to say, there cannot be the same insulative defense that you have always contained against what is the now. And so that I like that idea, insulative, like an insulating defense, as if we have like cotton in our ears, that we have not been able to feel or see the aliveness of the world around us. And they're saying that as we move into the shift in consciousness, that can't exist anymore. They say there has been a propensity within a human mind towards separation, which has been difficult and instructive. But in the new tomorrow, this tendency to remove yourselves must be set down as you prepare to receive more of what is. The aliveness of things stirs your senses, and your receptivity to this creates health and well-being. So here is a very important part of the message. I put great big pink highlighter on this section because this is going to be a very important part of how we perceive and experience the shift. As we move through the shift, that when, and they keep telling us to accept what is, that when we accept what is and we are in flow, then we're going to experience this process. It'll be fluid and easy. And here they're describing it that the aliveness of things stirs your senses, and your receptivity to this creates health and well-being. So if we are not in resistance to this experience, it will actually create better health, better well-being for us. But in the event, they say, of one who does not allow the perception to receive what is, there can be sensations of overwhelm and exhaustion as the defenses maintain a position of removal against what feels to be an onslaught of incoming, loving excitement from the world around you. So there are so many of us here who would self-identify as empaths, and we know how stressful it can be to be out. Say, for example, I love the example of going into Costco, and you're like feeling everybody's vibes, and it can be overwhelming and exhausting, right? We've all felt that at different times in our lives, and what the angels are saying here is that when we go into this new state of being, it'll be like there was so much love coming towards us from everything. If we are trying to isolate ourselves from it, if we're trying to return to what was, which is separation, keep saying if we turn our back on it and we return to what was, trying to hide ourselves because we feel it's too much, or I can't receive it, I'm not worthy, or whatever the story is inside our head as to why we cannot receive love, then it will actually create overwhelm, exhaustion, and I have to believe illness, because they say if we are in the flow, if we open to it, if we receive it, it will create, as they say, health and well-being. So they don't say it's going to make us sick because they're nice. They're angels. But the opposite of health and well-being, I have to extrapolate there and say, yeah, if we want to be. And and it's not like that's saying we're going to get sick. I think it's saying we're already humanity is already sick, right? We're already in resistance to what is. And that resistance creates dis-ease in the body. But they're saying the path to wellness is to be in flow, especially as we step into these new vibrations and all this. And I love how they describe it, the incoming loving excitement from around us, that it is all positive. It's all good. It just might freak us out a little bit. Yeah. I have the visual of like joining like one of those families, like in my big fat Greek wedding, where it's like they're coming in and it's like the Greek family, and it's like everybody's like in their space and hugging them and all this kind of stuff, and it's like overwhelming love, So that's the idea, that the whole world around you is going to be giving you the great big fat Greek wedding, all the love coming at you, the onslaught of incoming loving excitement. But I think it's really helpful for us to know this, especially because there are many of us that have loved ones, friends, family who are not on a spiritual path, that are not yet called. I say yet, not yet called to spirit, and they may struggle as we go through. As more and more energies hit the planet, they may struggle, and so I think it may help for us in our compassion and in our how do we help them? How do we, if we can, provide any insights or guidance to help them feel better, help them return to wellness. To understand what's going on, that it is the resistance to the energies coming up around them. So I think we can keep that in our mind as a way that we may be of service to the people around us. Okay. They go on to say, in the flow of this receptivity, what shall surround you now becomes a friendly place. So in other words, when we are in flow, when we are allowing, when we open up to the energies of everything and the oneness, then it becomes a friendly place, becomes a welcoming environment. In an environment of rejection, it becomes an onslaught of overwhelm. So yeah, I think it's very important for us to know that and have infinite compassion for what that might feel like for someone who is afraid to feel love or who does not feel worthy of love, and how hard that might be when the time comes. All right, this next section I gave like a double star to. So this has got some good info in here. They say we speak to this now in the dialogue within which we are also contained in the environment of your future. So they're saying, okay, so they're saying us too. As they talk about the overwhelm, they're saying we're talking about ourselves too. In the environment of your future, angels will be overwhelming. They say we, the angels, are part of what shall seem insolvably enormous, exponentially larger than what you have previously felt. So in this new vibration, angels have said that we will be able, many of us will perceive and see angels, and we will feel them much more palpably. And they're telling us that it will be a mind blower, that it will be like the biggest love we could imagine. And they say the fullness of our energies may seem like an intrusion upon the peaceful separation within which you have existed. But within those very frequencies, you will find the love that you are seeking. So this is that idea. Do we flow with it or do we resist it? Do we get scared because it seems it's so big? Did we get scared and turn away from it because we don't know what to do with it or how to process it? Right? It's almost like sometimes you get shivers of excitement, and it's almost like you feel the body, when you get a shiver of excitement, the body contracts as opposed to opening and allowing that thrill to move through you. And so will we open to the love or will we contract in the love? And so they say that if we do, we will find within it the love that we are seeking. You will find a peace that separates you from the overwhelm. So this is a huge piece of the message as well, because what they're saying, it's like everything. If we jump off the cliff, then we will be fine. It is the leap into opening our hearts that we have to make. It is the moment of the opening that's the hardest thing, because it feels overwhelming, and we will be afraid that if we open it, our hearts will explode, or who knows what we feel, right? That what we will feel is the thing we're afraid of, that we're afraid of love, that we're afraid that the love will find us and it won't want us, that we will be rejected, that it will, whatever our dialogue, our inner dialogue about love is, that love hurts us in one way or another. And if we can get over that through our fortitude, through our courage, and open our hearts, which is a leap of faith, because we don't really fully understand what's on the other side. We just feel that it's huge and overwhelming. If we do that, you will find a peace, they say, a peace that separates you from overwhelm. So we just have to take the plunge, is all we got to do. We just got to lean in and just rip the Band-Aid off and jump in with both feet. If we do, they will catch us. You will find a peace that separates you from the overwhelm, that creates within the chaotic voices of the all that is a rhythm and a harmony within which your own voice will sing. And for this, I imagine, like if you've ever been to a symphony and heard them warming up before they begin, and it's just chaos, right? It's like all kinds of squeeches and screeches and bangs, and it just sounds like it's nuts and nothing makes any sense. But then the conductor taps the thing, and then they all make a tune together, and then off they go. And it's like that. I think it'll be a thing like we open our hearts, this peace comes over us, and then all of a sudden what felt like an overwhelming amount of just chaos coming at us all of a sudden begins to sound like one song being sung by everything together, which I believe is God. That is how I would interpret it, that the song that we will tune into is every instrument in our reality, every consciousness in our reality singing their part of the same song, which is the love that unifies all of us. So when we open our hearts to the love, we will make sense of all of the song. We will hear the song too. In other words, we become part of the song. When we're outside of the song, we just hear the chaos. But when we open our hearts and jump in, then we will be singing the song too, and we become the love. Amazing. So they say that within it you find a peace that separates you from overwhelm, that creates within the chaotic voices of the all that is a rhythm and a harmony within which your own voice will sing. You are part of this chaotic slumbering that is coming to rise into your perception. You belong within it. You shall always be heard within the many voices of the all that is that gathers around you to begin this new voyage, we included. So us, the angels, and everything around us, right? Singing the song of love, singing God all the time. Amazing. They go on to say, and I just, and the other, I wrote myself a note here that sense of the resistance versus the flow. It's that idea of being in a river. And if you imagine that you are the river, that you are part of the river, and if you fight the river, you are, how painful that is, right? How everything flowing down hits you and you're drowning and the water is going up your nose and all of that, versus if you just flow with it and become one with the river, you literally can just float and it carries you because you are one with it. And that is the difference, right? Within this is, can we open our hearts and receive the love, or are we going to resist the love? Resist the love. They go on to say there can't, and this is amazing too. There cannot be the same separation when the voyage begins, for it will exhaust the self to pull away from what wishes so earnestly to be in dialogue with yourself. So this is going to be insistent, right? As we go into these energies and we rise, and the earth is rising all around us, and that's the deal, is the earth is rising. So everything is moving into this higher frequency of love. And so it's going to be insistent, like banging at the door, trying to be heard. And so it will exhaust us to pull away from it. It will become increasingly hard to stay in separation from it. And they say, and the division of worlds will begin to happen. There cannot be at once two ways of being human. It cannot endure in this manner. For the world, once it has its taste of expression, cannot repress itself again. That may be my favorite line in this entire thing. For the world, once it has its taste of expression, cannot repress itself again. So this is the idea that I think it is the cell in mitosis, that those that are in resistance, that are turning away from the energies that are and we are creative beings. So if we are turning away from the energies, we are creating more separation. And those that turn into the energies that open become, it's going to be such a thing that it's almost like it'll just sweep us away, right? It'll just take over. That is, they said, you cannot, it's like a genie in a bottle. Once we start to feel and experience the world around us, it's like we would be pulled into it the same way you would be swept down a river. So this separation begins to happen. And the angels have told us, like, don't worry. If you're like, what about my family? Like, what about the people I love? Well, like they said, no, we can continue to coexist. That you can still, our loved ones, the people that we care about, all of humanity has the remainder of their natural life on earth to move into these vibrations. And that is why there are so many healers here right now to help, right? Because they will feel the turn to spirit. They will be like, what is going on with me? And why do I feel this? And why do I have these headaches and whatever? They will be looking for help. So there'll be tons of opportunity to help them. But they've also told us that we may feel increasingly that we don't want to be around those energies as much. So we need to be sensitive to that we may need to pull away or create space for ourselves in some way from those who are really turning against it or really strongly in resistance. They said that, so this separation, and it may, and who knows, it may take generations for this full division to happen. I don't know how long it will be, if we will feel this division of worlds in our lifetime or if it will take many, but we are the beginning of it. I know that. We will be, and then the flash of light, which is the solar flash, which the angel said will be the moment that changes everything, is a solar energy coming to the planet, which will help to substantially raise our vibration. That's going to be, I think that is going to affect everyone and really light us up. It's going to be incredible. Yeah. Okay. And when? I don't know. But they told us in a recent message, they said that the reason we don't know when it is because it comes when we are ready for it. They said that it comes from the same origin that our souls came from. And so, and it's in relationship to us. And when we are ready, it's like part of our evolution, the energy will come. So that's why we don't have a specific date, is because it comes when there's enough of us that are ready. When we have sort of reached critical mass, then it comes. Yeah. So it's nice to at least know. It's not like they're just like holding out on us, even though, angels and dates are not necessarily compatible. All right. They go on to say, and these great songs and great heights and great feats of expression shall begin to become fuller, longer, more potent, and your own hearing of them will feel like a blessing. You will know yourself more completely. You will know us more earnestly and more truthfully, and you will know this world as one that exists because you are in it. Wow, you guys. I love that part. And I love the ending of that is the idea that we are the river, that we are creating the reality, right? And that the reality, and we will see the beauty of it. So then we will see the beauty that we are, which is incredible, right? Just incredible. So amazing, amazing message to share together today, you guys. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. And before we go, quick message, reminder: peace bathing for our peace bathing community is on Sunday. Peace bathing is our once a month healing that we do that helps us to keep pace with the shifting energies. So if you do not yet have a healing practice, an ongoing practice of working with your own energy, come and join us. And we can do it together as a community. It's a beautiful, beautiful healing with the angels, and we do it on Sunday. It's usually the third Sunday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific. And she says, "Yep, so it is this Sunday." So for those of you who are in peace bathing, I cannot wait to spend it with you. All right, you guys, have a fabulous, fabulous weekend. I'm sending you tons of love, and I hope to see you guys really soon. Bye, you guys.